All right. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Womb Garden podcast. I'm Sama
Yay!
Star and we've got Monarda is here with me, and I am super excited because Monarda wanted to talk about um, Beltane because today is May 1st, and Beltane is typically celebrated around this time. So I'd love, Monarda, why don't you just go ahead and talk about it? Share what you wanted to
Yeah.
share.
Mm. Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful day to be talking about Beltane. So Beltane is an earth-based holy day celebration, and like a lot of the earth-based holy days, it's marked in different ways. So some people mark the passing of Beltane on May 1st. That's kind of the most like what known date of Beltane is May 1st. So a lot of people celebrate it on May 1st. Um, it's a day that has been kind of used for other reasons as well. May 1st is also May Day. It's the Workers' Rights Day. Um, and as a as a pagan, I'm also thrilled to have people celebrating and honoring workers' rights, because as somebody who is a femme doing lots of invisible labor, um, unifying these 2 days feels good for me. Um, it's traditionally, I think there's different, like I said, different people celebrate it at different times. Some of my folks celebrated around the full moon, which the lunar Beltane was the last the full moon in Scorpio. So that was a weekish ago. Um, and where I was, it was cloudy that day, and I didn't get to see the full moon. And so today, even though it's not the full moon, it's like warm and sunny, one of the first sunny days that we've seen in northern Wisconsin in a long time. So my body is just like, yes, today is Beltane. Today is the day that we celebrate the flowers and the fertility of the earth. I birthed my youngest child on Beltane 6 years ago, and that day was it was a lot of things. It was full of flowers, and I called together a large group of people to witness and support me in the birth. I think there was like 9 adults and like 6 kids or something, which is a story in and of itself. But to be able to share this day with the day that marks the fertility of the earth is just it's glorious. So one of the traditions that I really want to share with folks, that I'm trying to get more people to practice, is the tradition of having a fire on Beltane Eve, which would have been last night. And then after the fire, couples would pair up and go make love in the fields to support the fertility of the seeds that have been planted and will be planted. So obviously fertility isn't only about sex and making love, but I think that reclaiming these traditions around our bodies and our sovereignty and our expression of love and our expression of love of and with the earth is one of these ways that we can really work through ancestral trauma that's being held in our bodies, and work to create the world that we want to see and that we really feel in our bodies. So I hope that at least one of you who listens to this podcast goes out and makes love in the field.
Oh, yes. Well, I just want to share that one of my favorite things about Beltane is that it often, like, May 1st is also considered May Day. So Beltane and May Day celebrations typically go hand in hand. Although some people celebrate Beltane, like you said, on the lunar Beltane, or a bit of a different day than May 1st, because it's going by the moon. But May Day, one of my favorite celebrations is the maypole dance, which is a symbolic celebration of fertility. And I've participated in a number of these maypole dances, and there's this whole feeling of making love with the earth itself by inserting this large pole. And in celebrations that I've participated in, all the men are carrying this large pole with all this manly energy of erecting this large pole and inserting it into this hole in the earth. And the pole has been prepared with ribbons at the top, and then there's this beautiful celebratory dance that weaves the colored ribbons, where there's one group of people weaving in one direction and with each holding a ribbon, and the other group of people weaving in the other direction, and you're singing songs and going over and under each other's ribbons. And it's this beautiful dance. And for me, it really symbolizes the complexity of our relationships and our communities, and how important that is for the fertility of land and our lives. And how and there's always this sort of friction between those people, perhaps some of the organizers, perhaps some of the participants, who have this perfect idea about what this maypole finished product is going to be. And they want every ribbon that's supposed to go over, and every ribbon that's supposed to go under. And they very quickly, in this group of joyful, spring fevered participants, those people who are trying to control it to be perfect just have to surrender to the mirth and joviality of the moment and of this group of people. And there's most of us in colonized culture, who've been brought up with colonization internalized, have to have that conversation inside of ourselves of saying, you know what, it's okay that I went under when I was supposed to go over, or I went over when I was supposed to go under, or that person keeps going over the wrong time, and getting annoyed with them, and saying, wait a second, this is about having fun and being together and celebrating this beautiful, albeit chaotic and imperfect, dance of life.
Yes.
And celebrating anyways. And I, unfortunately, I'm not able to attend a maypole celebration today, partly due to COVID and various other things. The community I usually would do that with is sort of been shut down for various catastrophic reasons, wildfires and things like that. But my husband and I just realized when you were talking, have our own celebration of fertility that I just want to show over here, which is this huge pile of compost that we had delivered to our property.
Awesome.
Show it here. I wish you could smell it, but it's gorgeous compost. And I don't know if you can kind of see over on the other side of that fence a line of the compost along the fence over there, where my husband already started moving it. And this compost, I've gardened in this compost before, and it is super fertile. It is amazingly fertile. It makes the garden really grow beautifully. And we found out from the delivery guy that the guy who started this company was a biochemical engineer, and he's devoted his energies to replenishing the soil. And just to give you some scale about the size of this pile here, I can squash down, and here I am next to the pile.
Oh my goodness.
Very warm, by the way. And it smells quite rich. I have a feeling that smelling that smell does something to our own biochemistry. So, whenever you're going into agricultural areas and you smell the smell of the manure and all of that, I feel like that does something healthy to our biochemistry. So anyway, this compost, I fell in love with this compost the first time I had the chance to garden with it, and so I have my own pile now. I used it in a community garden. They deliver to community gardens all the time, this company. So I was able to make my own, and I'll mix it with my own compost and like that. But I don't have animals, and animal manure is a really important part of the fertility. It's the animals are part of our community, right? So of course there's plenty of birds around here, but they don't quite leave their droppings in a large enough quantity and exactly the right place. So I guess that's our fertility celebration. Whoops. Excuse me.
I love that, it kind of it invites the practice of noticing, right? It's like fertility is all around us and everywhere. We don't have to make love in the fields, to honor the fertility of the earth, to honor the fertility in our bodies, and to be part of it, right? And I think even, the maypole dance, which is a really beautiful tradition, it's one that me and my family have slowly grown into, but it can be a lot to coordinate. And so I think, another noticing is, how am I dancing the maypole dance in my garden, in my house, in my yard, with my friends and beloveds, right? Like, I love all of the pieces of the dance, of like brushing against people's skin and bodies and going in and out, and noticing these moments when everybody is synchronized in this beautiful way of everybody's going over or under at the exact same time, and then it goes into chaos again, and then we get syncopated. And I'm so grateful for you sharing that story. And
some of the songs that go with the maypole dance are really lovely, because they're simple rhythms, simple melodies, so everyone can, and they're repetitive, so everyone can start singing along, and it creates this rhythmic synchronicity where everyone is unified, and you don't have to be a trained or skilled musician. Everyone has the rhythm of their own footsteps, the rhythm of their own heartbeat, and it's the rhythm of our own breath, and the rhythm of the movements, and all of that becomes part of the music. And having these simple chants that have beautiful symbolism about, geometric symbolism and rhythmic symbolism about the elements of life and the seasons of life. Are there any songs that that you like to sing on May Day?
We haven't gotten into songs for the maypole. I do have 2 May Day songs that came through me. One is a daytime song, one is a nighttime song. But I've never sung them. Sure.
Would you be willing to sing can you sing at least the daytime song for us?
Yeah, I can sing the daytime song. I love it. I hadn't even thought about it until now. It's a song about flowers, which is the other thing we want to talk about on this podcast.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a song that can be layered, and I'm trying to remember. I think it's on my SoundCloud page, so we can try to post that on the notes for this. Here it goes. Plants are sprouting, May is here. Flowers blooming, May is here. The lupin, the willow, the daffodil, everywhere the green earth is alive. Sing of abundance, the earth is abundant. Bring forth abundance with fertility. Yay, the lilac.
Oh, sing it again. Sing it again. I'm going to show some flowers while you sing it.
Sounds
Okay.
great. Plants are sprouting, May is here. Flowers blooming, May is here. The lupin, the lilac, the daffodil, everywhere the green earth is alive. Sing of abundance, the earth is abundant. Bring forth abundance with fertility. Flowers blooming, May is here. Plants are sprouting, May is here. The lupin, the willow, the
Uh-oh, I can't hear you now.
Oh no. Oops. Huh.
All right, were you going to show your flowers too? Uh-oh, I can't hear you again for some reason.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I muted it on accident.
That's all right. Were you trying to show your flowers too?
Yeah, I showed my violets.
Oh. Yeah, so we have I showed some lilacs, some roses, some beautiful roses are here. And California poppies. And you have some lilac, daffodil. There you go.
Yep.
And I didn't see the violets. Can you show those again?
Sure. Love the violets. Cute.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the traditions that I love about May Day and Beltane and the May Day celebrations is the tradition of making a flower crown. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because, you know, you have to kind of find the right kind of flower to make a flower crown that, you know, I mean, any flower will do, but some work better than others. Like if you tried to use daffodils, they probably would wilt quite quickly because they're so tender and juicy. And if you're out on a sunny, warm day, they would very quickly be kind of wilty and sad. And so finding flower, and then roses, of course, you're dealing with thorns, although if you were willing to, you know, do the work of picking off the thorns, then roses are great in flower crowns. And especially if you have like a viney woven base, like, you know, cutting new grapevine fronds that are nice and flexible, you can use those to wind into a circle that is the right size for your head, and then weave the stems of the flowers that you're adding. The flower that I have blooming right now that I feel would work really well in a flower crown is calendula. And I'll just show it over here. And I know you had some flowers you wanted to show us too that might work for flower crowns that are blooming in your area. But let's just look at the calendula here. So here's calendula.
Oh yes.
And I have this plant here, and there's several plants in in another raised bed on the other side of the property. But these are very sturdy. They have nice, clean, strong stems with no thorns, and would make, you know, be easy to add to flower crowns. And I was just looking at an instruction article about making flower crowns where you actually use the stems of the flowers themselves to make the best base of the crown. And the method that I've used with that in the past, even just with little daisies from the lawn, that, you know, the kind of daisies that grow in the lawn, is you sort of pinch a hole through the stem high up at the base of the flower with
Yep.
your fingernail, and then you put the stem of the other flower through that hole, and you keep going that way, pinching holes in the stems and threading the other flower stem through it. But you need a whole like patch of lawn daisies in order to make that kind of flower crown. But the other ways I've seen it, there's different ways that you can do it, either with a grapevine base or by sort of wrapping the stems of each flower around each other, and like tying knots and stuff. So calendula would be one that would have a stem that was flexible enough and strong enough to do those kinds of flower crowns. Then it would also, I mean, all of these flowers have such medicinal qualities that when you're putting them around your head, you're just infusing your whole mind and body and spirit with the wisdom and the energy of these flowers. So it's such a beautiful practice. And you were going to show us some flowers that are blooming near you that might be good for that as well.
Yeah, I'll take a walk over to the Forsythia. It's at my neighbor's, and she might bring herself into the podcast.
Oh.
But I wanted the one that you talked about with the daisies, the technique. That's what we did when I was a kid with dandelions, and that, you know, I live in a part of the world where dandelions are very abundant right now, but not very many flowers are. And so I think dandelion crowns this time of year are fabulous.
Yeah.
One
Well,
thing
in
that
that case, you know, in that case, even like wild lettuce flowers look very much like dandelions, although they don't have very long stems. So I don't know. The one I'm looking at right now is they come in clusters, so it might not have enough of a stem, but it might.
The internet is over. One of the things that I was thinking about while you were talking about your flowers, and I was thinking orange this time of year.
Uh-oh. I think we're losing you. Okay, well, it looks like the Forsythia is too far away from the internet source for us to be able to look at it with Monarda, but how would it fare, do you feel, for those who have Forsythia as for flower crowns?
Yeah, Forsythia is a little bit woodier. I mean, it is a woody shrub, which makes it very sturdy as a base, not super pliable. So it depends on what part of the tree you take a cutting from. But in my part of the world, this is when Forsythia blooms. So it's a gorgeous yellow flowering shrub, and it's Chinese medicine. The root is used as a medicine. I haven't used it as a medicine. I'm not totally sure what the medicine is for. But I think Forsythia could be used as a base for a crown, as well as just a lovely crown on its own. When you were talking about wrapping the crown, I thought about ribbons, as well.
Yeah,
Have you? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
those are
Yeah.
great for wrapping crowns. I used to be the hands-on crafts coordinator for the Whole Earth Festival that took place at UC Davis. And it would be a big festival where tens of thousands of people would come. It was a free festival put on by the students. And I was the hands-on crafts coordinator for several years in a row, where I would um, put on crafting workshops and host, free craft workshops throughout the festival, and people would come. And I got donations of dried flowers from
Mm.
a local farmer who grew and sold everlasting flowers. And I would go before the day that we would do the flower type things. I would ride my bike with my bike baskets out to the garden, to the community garden where I had a huge plot, and you know had other people who offered their blooming flowers as well. And I would fill up 5-gallon buckets and vases full of fresh flowers and bring them to on my bike, and I had a bike cart, and I'd put these buckets in the back of the bike cart, and I'd show up in this like defloral, I don't know if that's a word, I'm making up a word. Just imagine me showing up on my bicycle that's just like covered in full of flowers, and and then I'd have a whole collection of ribbons of various kinds and beads and all kinds of things to add to these flower crowns. So yes, wrapping the stems of the flowers with ribbons, and then adding more flowers and wrapping with more ribbon, and having the ribbons dangle down in just the right way, and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful
Sounds
flower crown.
lovely.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's such a festive thing to be, working with flowers, and it just does something to our spirit to be
Mm-hmm.
with the flowers.
If for folks who are listening to this podcast, if you're inspired to go out and make a flower crown, I would love to see photos and or videos of your flower crowns. That'd be
Yes,
wonderful.
and to be honest, I am actually going to wait to make my flower crown a little bit longer, because I'll just show you why. Right over here, where I'm sitting, is the cosmary. And as you can see, the cosmary is just about to burst forth in bloom,
Mm.
but not quite yet. And what I'm noticing about the cosmary is that the ladybugs are loving hanging out in the cosmary. And
Oh.
and I've had aphids and things in other places, but haven't seen any ladybugs. But in the cosmary, the little buds were starting to have aphids, and I was like, okay, here we go. And then
Yeah.
the ladybugs came, and they just
Mm.
started munching on those aphids, on the aphids, and now I don't see any aphids on the cosmere.
Yay.
So I feel like the cosmere is a great home for beneficial insects. And this is why I like to grow, because the cosmere flower is not a very showy flower. It's just a cluster of white flowers. But the cosmere has a wonderful aroma in the leaves and flowers, and has been gosh, I didn't even know we were going to talk about cosmere today, because it's not quite blooming. It's just like in that moment just before. And it would be great. I think it's going to be great for a flower crown with some calendula, of course, color, and maybe a few roses. So you're inspired to make flower crowns. And and my feeling is, here we are in springtime, and we're supposed to just celebrate on one day. I don't think so. Okay. I feel like, yes, one day, having one day where we come together and do that is wonderful. And for me, I feel like all of spring can be a celebration, and I can make
Yes.
as many flower crowns as I choose. And
Yes.
how disruptive it is to the productivity, like work production orientation of colonized culture that celebratory traditions have been exiled from because
Yeah.
it's unproductive. How disruptive is it to say, you know what,
Mm.
right now it's more important to make a flower crown and to celebrate
Yes.
the fertility of life that and to prioritize these kinds of ceremonial spirit uplifting medicinal practices that give us such joy and
Mm.
and prioritize that, you know, it's so easy
Mhm.
drawn into this culture of it, you know, everything's so serious all the time and oh,
You're good. Eh. Oh, now you're gone. Where'd you go? Oh. Hmm. Here's the other Beltane song. We'll light a fire, we'll bathe in water. It's Beltane and spirits high on Beltane. The earth runs through me, and life comes forth from you and I.
Hey, oh, did it keep going? Did it keep recording?
It kept recording and I was quiet for a while and then I sang the other Beltane song. I'll sing it for you again if you want.
Okay, please do.
We'll light a fire, we'll bathe in water. It's Beltane and spirits high on Beltane. The earth runs through me, and life comes forth from you and I. Oh, I want to cry.
Yeah, that made me feel quite nostalgic too, and like longing to be together around the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of being together around a fire going on around here these days in California, unless you're involved in, you know, controlled burns for fire abatement or something like that. But although our neighbors tend to have barbecues quite often, and we do have a little like metal fire pit that's like a barbecue that we could like build a little fire with wood and sit around in our yard. So, you know, it's awakening this longing, but I want to do one with you, Monarda.
Yes, yes. Yesterday, I was able to have a sauna with a friend, and we hadn't saunaed before. And it was really really sweet. It was a really hot fire. And even though he and I don't have like a precedence for doing ritual together, we just like dropped into a ritual space. It was really nice. I wanted to respond to the piece that you said about celebrating Beltane on a day, because I think I think you're getting at this truth that these were seasons and not days, right? Like Beltane is a season, and it's and then it goes into the next season, which is solstice, and that goes into the next season, which is Lammas. And I think this colonized idea that like holy days are moments or days when the reality is that they're seasons, and that our bodies are already celebrating them. Our bodies are already honoring them. And that practice of awareness and connection with the traditions of the past, and just noticing how our body is already present with the season changes and with the celebrations of life, because the earth is orgasming all the time, right? Like the earth is celebrating life every moment in between all of our breaths. And these holy days are, our traditional times when we would tune into and, have awareness around that. But also there are working with specific moments of sun, moon, stars, where there are alignments around, specific points of magic. And that being said, I don't actually want people who don't have experience with magic really working with these potent moments of magic, because from my experience, magic is dangerous. And I have hurt myself and others by tuning into energies that I didn't really have awareness around how to use them. And working with plants has been the most potent lessons around using magic, because I'm using all of my senses to pay attention and to tune in. And I'm working with people who are part of lineages that are thousands of years of learning about how to use medicines and how to learn from medicines and how to listen to medicines. And so I think for people who are interested in magic and in ceremony and in ritual and in tapping into their own magical skills and tools, I think starting to work with plants is such a great place to begin.
Yeah, what you're sharing about makes me think about what gets us in trouble when working with what I'm assuming you're talking about when you talk about magic. And I'm sure you'll have other things to say about this, but I just wanted to mention that what I see and feel that gets people in trouble about that with working with magic is this idea that I can desire something or want something and make it happen by manipulating the energies available to me. And what gets people in trouble with that is that we have a limited, if we have like sort of a narrow tunnel vision of desire about this one thing, and not having a wider vision and understanding of what we might need to give up or change about ourselves in order to have that thing. What the undesirable, hidden undesirable things that are attached to that, us having that thing might be. That, there may be very good reasons why we don't have that thing. There may be all kinds of things that we don't like or want really truly about that thing that we're not aware of because we're not close to that thing yet. And then if we somehow manage to manipulate the energies of our lives and circumstances in order to get close to that thing, suddenly we're like, oh, wait a second, you mean I have to give up this and that, and this thing includes that and that as well? Oh, and wait a second, no, I didn't mean it. I don't really want that thing after all. And it's too late, right?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
So these are the ways in which we can get in trouble with wanting things and manipulating our circumstances in order to get them, and manipulating energies in order to get them. And it can go really far down that road where people get so attached to having that thing that they're willing to hurt themselves, hurt other people, hurt the environment, hurt this and that. And so the trouble we're in as a species is very much because of the avenues of technological magic and exploitation magic that people have been willing to do in order to have certain things, have a certain degree of hoarded, collected wealth in the hands of certain people at the expense of everyone else. And so, just noticing how, we need to decolonize our approach to magic and say, what if we are participating in a greater mystery of magic that we can participate in and be guided by, and invite wisdom through our experiences of, and inquire about the wisdom of any desire that we might have. And certainly let our desires motivate us, but also, be ready to, participate in and work with whatever comes up, whatever's required. Like my desire for this great pile of compost, right? My husband was like, is this wise for us to get this great pile of compost right now? And I'm like, yes, we need it. Okay, honey, go ahead, right? And then after we get the pile delivered and it's this great moment, and my husband's loving it and he's taking pictures and smelling the compost. He's like, I love the smell, and he loves it and we love it. And it's this great moment. He says, wait a second, aren't we having some tree work done right here with a big truck and and don't we need to park right here where we have this big pile of compost? And isn't that in just a few weeks? And don't we have all these other things going on that, do we have time to move this compost in time for the tree truck to come, honey? I'm like, oops, okay, here's the hidden price of this magic of getting this incredible compost that I didn't think all the way through, that I didn't see all the things. And for me, like getting busy and getting some spring exercise and moving this compost around, that's an acceptable price to pay for the fertility of the garden and the land that I know is coming from this compost. And that's a very mild example, but that is an example of how, we can cast the spell to draw in the particular person for a romantic relationship. And then lo and behold, there's all these things about the person we didn't know about, or all these situations in our life that maybe we're not ready for that kind of relationship right now. And now here we are in the midst of it, or whatever it is that we desired. And then things we didn't realize about it.
Exactly.
And this is how, people have gotten in trouble with magic in the past, and in big ways. And I don't want to scare people off from doing ceremony, but I do want to invite people to really connect with wisdom guidance around ceremony and expand into it. So my approach to ceremony and magic, I call biomystical. So when we look at our biology and what we need biologically for health and well-being, and letting that be a map to any mystical endeavors that we engage in, so that we're not doing, like, I don't like to do bio-intensive methodologies anymore. I used to really engage in that, where there were long periods of fasting, for example, which actually can be biologically beneficial, but after a certain period of time, it becomes unbeneficial. And knowing that, like, about like noticing that, whereas if you get attached to fasting as a methodology, then you can go beyond the beneficial place for it. And for certain body types, it's more beneficial than others. So really listening to that and not getting attached to mystical practice that might not be biologically sound for any given person. So, you know, a lot of people are into psychedelic plant medicines. And for some people, they might be biologically good, but for people who have various biochemical imbalances, that's not a biologically sound approach for them. And people have gotten into all kinds of very deep trouble with having facilitators of those kinds of ceremonies not understand or not be able to screen for, you know, who it's good for and who isn't it good for biologically and biochemically. And so so just having a sense of wisdom and biomysticism about it, like what is biologically sound in these practices, what is for me, that's the map. Our biological health and well-being is the map for that. So anyway, those are just some words.
I want to go deeper into that with you another day.
Yes, because our time is winding down.
But I wanted to tie this. I wanted to tie this the magical practice piece with plants and with tending plants, because plants are very physical and physiological, though they have emotional and spiritual components. But learning how to tend plants can help somebody to understand how to use the elements for life. Plants need water, plants need soil, plants need air, and plants need warmth. And when you develop an intimate relationship with a plant, you get to know how to use the different elements to support the individual needs of the plants. And so I want to get together with you and riff on the biomystical piece and thinking about humans and plants, because that's part of it too, right? Plants have their own bodies and their own biomystical needs. And even individual plants within the same species are going to have different needs, but generally the same species of plants is going to want more shade or less shade, or more water or less water, or rich soil, or but one of the practices that I think both of us have done is to really understand about how we nourish the elements that feed the plants spiritually. And that for me is one of these relatively safe practices for people who are interested in starting to learn magic, developing an intimate relationship with plant and with the elements that are feeding that plant.
Indeed. And that's a way that we can connect with our own biology and our own biological well-being as well, is connecting with the elements and how they nourish us. And that commonality between our biology and plant biology starts to create this connectivity and belonging and relationship, like familial relationship with the plants, because, oh, we're breathing the same air, we're sharing the air, you're exhaling, I'm inhaling, and oh, we're drinking the same water, we have this relationship with water, I'm giving you water, you retain the water, you put nourishment in the water, I put you in water, I drink that water, I'm nourished, right? And oh, we have this relationship with the sun, with fire, with, you know, all the different ways, and then the earth, you know, here we are on the earth, our roots sink down into the earth. How can we connect with that? And so our biology is so influenced by these elements in our relationship with them, just as it is with the plants. And so the plants have so much to teach us about our biology in that sense. And so thank you so much for bringing up the elements, because that's elemental to the biomystical approach to gardening and to magic and to all of
Yes.
these things and to life. So yes, so wonderful. What a wonderful note to wrap up with. Thank you so much for bringing the topic of Beltane forth for us today, and got me thinking about making flower crowns.
Yay!
having a fire pit and celebrating this season of spring and fertility. So I mean, I was already there, but creating conscious relationship with that and really celebrating that just brings us so much joy. So thank you for bringing that
Thanks,
to us.
Sama.
Yeah.
This was fun.
All right. So those of you listening to the podcast, I just want to mention that the imperfections in this recording are deliberately left in to disrupt this culture of perfection and performance that we all suffer so greatly from. So I just want to mention that. So if you got here to the end, then you are part of that disruption and celebrating you. And I want to encourage you to do what you do with love, without trying to be perfect about it, right? Or without buying into that perfectionism thing. So liberating ourselves from that today. And if you want to learn more about what's going on in the Womb Centered Healing Temple, you can go to wombcenteredhealing.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get notifications every time a new one of these podcasts comes out. Or actually, better yet, this one's going to be on YouTube. So go to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications button, and you'll get notifications anytime a new one of these gets uploaded. And also hit the like button if you like this episode. And if folks want to get in touch with you, Monarda, how might they do so?
Yeah, you can email me at dancingmonarda@gmail.com. It's MONARDA.
Wonderful. Okay, that's all for now.
Thank you.
Mwah. See you soon.